What's going on, everybody? Today is Wednesday, May 7th. We are talking episode 11 of Survivor 48. It's the final seven, and it's a head-scratching final seven. I must say, we got Mary going home unanimously. I believe we got a standing ovation from David. I don't know what exactly that was.
I tried to look online quickly on Twitter to see
Yeah.
if anyone had an explanation. Everyone was just shitting on him, which is what I expected. But I wanted to try to find at least like a comment or something to be like, who's actually doing this? But like, it did not exist. So I don't know. I don't think it was an ovation. I think I read it more as like "I told you so"
To who? Her?
to
Or,
everyone. Like I don't know. Like I don't even know what, to be honest, what.
yeah,
Yeah, he just
he's such a
baffles
dork.
me. He just baffles me in general. He's so unlikable. Like, just in general. I don't. I mean, I talked about how much I didn't like Say, but that was because of her gameplay and it didn't make any sense. He is just like unlikable. Unlikable as like a person, it seems.
Yeah, is it like he's standing in defiance? Is that what it's about?
It could be in
I don't know.
solidarity. I don't
I
know.
am the revolution.
Yeah, right.
Should have thrown up the Hunger Games.
Yeah, I
That was
don't
the
know.
Mockingjay. The Mockingjay just left
The
the
Mocking
stage.
Dave.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. That entire spectacle derailed my brain from thinking about what actually happened and how stupid of a vote that was to get rid of Mary in that situation. I mean, like, you don't have another crack at Joe. Like, you may not have another crack at him at all because of Eva's advantages and idols, and because of how good he is at challenges. And that's usually not like a hill I die on of strategy, is like get up the strong people because they may not win, or they may win out. You may not have another opportunity, but people usually make that argument when there's like 10 people left and it doesn't make any sense to make that argument. It makes sense when he only has a couple more left to
Yeah.
win.
Yeah, when
So,
his number one has an idol and a vote or a safety without power,
mm,
and there's only two challenges left, and he could probably make fire. Yeah.
going into tribal, I said the words out loud. This may be unanimously Joe.
Yeah.
Like, besides Joe and Eva, like I thought it could have been 5-2. Joe.
I thought so too. I thought
Yeah.
because they were really building the music up when it was 2-1 Mary,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, both Kyle and Shauheen flipped, because Shauheen was pretty worked up at Joe in his whole situation, and but yeah, I think the best way to attack it, I think, is from Kyle's perspective. We were talking about before this, and you mentioned, it's really a Kyle POV episode. And I gotta admit, I'm pretty disappointed in Kyle. I saw Tommy Smokes tweeted during the episode. He was like, "If Joe survives tonight, I'm rooting for Joe from now on. If these people don't realize that they need to get rid of him, then I want them all to lose."
I think that's
And
a valid take.
yeah, it's kind of the point I'm in right now, because Kyle lays out in the first 10 minutes of the episode. He sees Joe's position. He knows Joe's got friends. He's insulated. Camilla's really the only person with any agency that's targeting Joe, and he acknowledges that Eva has all these advantages. And my note from Kyle is, this will be the struggle of the episode. Will Kyle or won't Kyle get rid of Joe? And he has this long confessional about the inner turmoil, and I liked that because it is a real thing. But it really felt like by the end of the episode, he kind of came around to the fact that he had to do it. And I didn't even really think he was questioning it anymore at the end. Like, when he has the thing with Camilla and he's like, yeah, like, I'm a lawyer. It's like, it kind of felt like a pointless reveal, because she already trusts him. And if anything, it's a little bit of a questionable thing. But that felt to me like, okay, they are like solidified, like they are doing this together, and it's going to start right now with Joe going home.
Right. And I think this was before we started recording that I said, his position's not going to be better next week to get Joe out. Like, at some point to win the game, he said it from his mouth that Joe is the front runner. So that means
Yeah.
to win the game, Joe needs to go home. So like in moving throughout the course of the next couple votes, there is not going to be a better position to get Joe out. I don't understand how like this isn't the most opportune time. And he goes back and forth on like even a tribal where he kind of goes on about, you know, past Survivor players, maybe making a move too early or making a move not at all, and that costs them the game. Either one could cost you the game. And like Final Seven is like the move, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody has ever. I don't think have we ever been like, yeah, Final Seven, too early to like make that move
Right.
against your
It's
alliance. That's the
typically a
time,
defining move.
right? So I'm not really sure what he was thinking when next week you need a 4-2 majority and you
Hmm.
just voted out. You need a 4-3 this week, but you just voted out one of your numbers. So who would definitely be on your side for next week? So I'm not. I don't know. You got to get it. It's basically everybody versus Joe and Eva, I would assume. And if they even sniff that at all, if one of them wins immunity, the other one has an idol essentially. So I
Well,
don't
I
know.
think that what we saw in the preview for next time, it's something I always say I don't like to put too much stock in, but usually like two or three times a season, you can look at it and be like, there's no way that they could edit what we just saw into like a fake out. Like that is like Shaheen point blank telling or sorry, Kyle point blank telling Joe that Shaheen flipped. We don't know what the capacity of that is, but this is I brought this up probably like 2 months ago, and I think you were pretty hesitant to agree with me. And I mentioned it again recently. I all along I felt like Kyle and Camilla, instead of fighting with Joe and Eva over Shaheen, they're gonna join Joe and Eva and like try to bounce Shaheen. Like I think that their plan for next week is going to be, oh hey Joe, we didn't do anything wrong. We've always been on your side. Shaheen is trying to flip, and then they're gonna try to use that to create chaos and get rid of Joe. It's like it's just it's worked. It works when there's a lot of people left. It's a very like Big Brother kind of like move. It works when there's a lot of people left. At a certain point, you just gotta do it. You just gotta do it. And I think that Shaheen as an ally, like I told you, I think no matter what, Kyle and Shaheen have both seen the light in this episode. They both have pretty much come to terms with the fact that Joe is the biggest threat in the game. And that's the thing that annoyed me about Shaheen earlier was he also, like you said about Kyle, he pretty much says Joe is in everyone's eyes, Joe is the front runner. And he says, but I think I've played a better game. And I think that if you sit next to him and you acknowledge that everyone's perception of him is so strong, that is a big mistake. That's a game losing kind of mistake. I think if Shaheen sat next to Joe, I think Joe would win. Even if I do think Shaheen's he's done a better job of like keeping options open and playing the middle, and Joe's pretty much been committed to one thing all along. But it reminds me a lot of JT and Steven and Token Cheens, where it's like the one guy, like when you go all in on one thing and everyone else kind of like swirls around that thing and never targets it, it's really easy to sit there at the end and just be honest and let people be like, what a good guy up there. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're Shaheen as like the Steven, it's like if you turn, you're the asshole. If you don't turn, you're the idiot. And
Mm-hmm.
I think he's kind of backed himself into a corner.
Yeah, yeah, and you can probably debate between Shaheen and Joe like which type of game is better, like in a vacuum, like
Hmm.
playing the honest game and being able to sit up at Final Tribal and say, I was honest with everybody. I'm going to be honest now. Like that was my game, and I executed it, and that's why I'm sitting here. And you could say what you said, exactly what you said about Shaheen. Like I played the middle a lot better. I kept my options open. That's why I'm sitting here. And you could. That's really like a debate for like down to your own personal like jury vote, like who you think deserves it more based on their gameplay. I don't necessarily think that Shaheen was making the point that he wanted to sit next to Joe at the end when he said that. I think he was kind of more going along the lines of like everyone perceives Joe to be the front runner here. Even though I think I played the better game, I acknowledge that everyone else thinks that Joe played the better game, so we need to get him out. Therefore, we need to get him out. But that doesn't line up with what he did, so maybe I read that wrong. But like that's what I thought he was saying there was we need to get him out because everyone thinks he played the better game, even though I personally think I played the better game.
Yeah, my interpretation of it was that he's saying everyone thinks Joe is the biggest threat, so we need to get Joe out now while we have a 4-3 advantage.
Yeah.
And in his opinion, Joe is not as big of a deal as everyone thinks, therefore he can wait to get rid of him. However, in his reasoning as to why Joe is not that big of a deal, he kind of outlines why he needs to get rid of Joe right now.
Yeah.
And so for as much as I like Shaheen, I think this is his blind spot that I think is going to cost him the game.
I think his edit in the past 2 or 3 episodes has really taken a turn for the worse.
Yeah.
Just like in general. He transitioned from like being that guy in the middle and having his options open to just not having any agency because he didn't do anything.
Right.
I think. So I don't know. I'm off the Shaheen winner. I don't even know really if I'm rooting for him after this week. If he voted for Joe and took Joe out here, I'd still be rooting for him to win. I think that would have been a great move, even if you wanted to call it Mary's move or Kyle's move. If he had the balls to do it with them, I think I'd still be rooting for him to win. But I don't think I am anymore. I don't think he deserves it.
I think that he still can win, but I think the scenario in which he does win, it would look like a pretty weak win, I would think.
I would agree.
I think the path there at this point is if Kyle and Camilla try to turn on him, like the very interesting thing to me, it has always been the Camilla of it all. I've said that Shaheen is a very interesting.
We've been saying this since week 2.
Yeah, Shaheen he's a very interesting character in that he's in the middle, and he's kind of the one person who always has the means to make a move, but it doesn't always make a lot of sense. And now it's making more sense. But Camilla has always, to me, been the most interesting player, just because she's directly on the outside of this alliance. However, she's very safe to the point where she doesn't really need to attack the alliance. She doesn't really need to protect herself because the alliance is going to protect her. And it's shades of Ricard in 41, where there was that 4-person alliance, and his tie to it was Shan. And so they were like, yeah, we'll keep him safe. And then the alliance imploded on itself, and because he wasn't in it, he was safe from that, right? So, but I think Camilla, to me, she loves to be the like sneak. She loves to do the sneaky sneak, and it seems like next week she's done the sneaky sneak a couple times, and it's worked. It seems like she's gonna try to do it on Shaheen again next week, and I do feel like this could be a time. Like my opinion on what is going to happen next week is Kyle and Camilla are going to try to frame Shaheen for, which is a foreshadowed thing from weeks ago. They're going to try to frame him for something. Shaheen is going to fight back against it, and Joe and Eva are going to pick a side. And Joe and Eva are going to go from ass in the jackpot to they're going to be the swing votes. And I think it is everything that when Joe sat Mary down and he had that whole thing about how you're the puppet master, you're doing all this to, like, you're in control, you're behind everything, you have the finger on everything, even if you aren't, like, the person who actually has the pull and, like, you're doing the things. It's like, it's really Mary guiding the season, right? That's actually Camilla. And the fact that Joe targeted Mary so strongly makes me think that if the light bulb ever goes off on what Camilla actually is, like, he's going to want her out instantly. And I think Kyle is to the point where he can't really defend her. Like, if they start a beef with Shaheen is going to vote with Joe and Eva. Right. And your best case scenario is a tie.
Yeah, like
they have an idol, and yeah.
Them framing Shaheen doesn't make any sense from a strategic standpoint. Like, no. You need Shaheen on your side, especially since you now really don't have the numbers to get out Joe or Eva. Like, the only thing that I can make sense of it is like the the spin that they put on the next week's on the preview for next week is that maybe Shaheen's in on it, that they're framing him, and they're just trying to like sow chaos in that sense. Like they get with Shaheen and say like, "Hey, let's concoct this plan so that Joe and Eva don't really, so that we're all united against you hypothetically, and that throws them off from using the idol on Joe."
That would be. I mean, that is them at the Swap Tribe level of high level of gameplay. There, I think.
Right. I mean, I don't think the problem is Shaheen. Like, I don't think would go for that. Like in his mind, like if you get if you get confronted with this plan that Kyle and Camilla have concocted, that we want to sow chaos so that this idol doesn't get played, and we're gonna just pitch to them that you flipped. Like, why can't he just be like, we're all sticking together to vote out Mitch,
Yeah.
and we're just gonna
Well,
vote
why don't
Joe?
you just split the vote at that
Yeah,
point?
right. Exactly. Yeah. So
And if
that's
Eva uses her advantage, then you just vote Mitch out.
I'm just trying to make a case for something to make sense, I guess. But that would
Yeah.
probably be the case, is that he's in on it, and it's to get Joe, even not to play her idol on Joe, or even not to play her idol.
Yeah. Well,
I guess.
I've been on the Kyle Camilla train all season. I think they're both really strong players. I think if Joe ends up winning this season, and especially if Joe wins the season and Eva also makes it to final tribal, like Kyle and Camilla will have fumbled this so hard, and there is just zero killer instinct in there.
The thing is, like, Camilla this episode, you could probably make the case that she made a good move by voting with the group here because she didn't have the numbers.
I do think that's true. If Kyle and Shaheen decide they're not doing it, like her and Mitch both voted Mary out.
Right. I think they, if they get together and Kyle's like, you know what, like at the when it comes down to it, I just need to vote with Joe this week, and Shaheen says the same thing, and Camilla doesn't try to force it and stays with the group. Like, I think that's probably a good move. I mean, that says more about Shaheen and Kyle than it does Camilla. I think because she's way more in the line of fire than they are. So,
Yeah.
like, if she votes Joe there, she'll go next week, basically. If everyone else votes Mary out and she votes Joe, like, the target immediately goes to her. But if Kyle or Shaheen vote Joe, I think it gets a lot more mixed up, and Joe's going to go for them, but then they have other numbers to, kind of combat that. Whereas Camilla, I don't necessarily know if that's the case. Kyle will probably defend her, but I don't know if you get Shaheen too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we're getting to the point where, like you said, about it might be the last chance to get people out. Like, I also hate when people talk like that, but you're right. There's 6 people left, and Joe, I mean, he basically won the challenge today. He had a block flipped up or backwards. And
what have they ever done that?
They did it to Ben Driebergen.
I don't remember.
He put like the U upside down in the final 4 immunity.
Mm,
He won the challenge.
yeah.
And they were like, your letter is upside down, and then he went to fix it, and the whole thing fell over.
Oh, I do remember. But I mean specifically like, the ends that aren't part of the word are different colors, and they need to match something that isn't a part of the puzzle. Like, how does that?
No,
make
it
sense?
was on one side the letters were black, and the other they were white.
Oh,
And
he just had one.
The eyes had one black side and one white side.
Gotcha. I thought he was saying that they had to match the pedestal that they were touching.
Oh, I don't think so. No, I think it was
Okay.
just that. Yeah, the white eyeball was on the same side as all the black letters. And
You
the
could see
other black
like
eyeball.
when Jeff said that, and he says that that Joe loses the challenge. Like, you could see him just thinking in his head, like, that's such horseshit.
Yeah.
Like, he was so pissed about it, but he like knew he couldn't like say anything about it, so he was like, all right, good job. But like, you could see he was so upset about it.
Yeah. It's like the same thing as Wendell when he finishes the puzzle first, but he doesn't say. Like, I guess
yeah.
I don't know in the rules where it like says that you have to. It must be like you have to alert Jeff.
Yeah.
But like to finish, to have the puzzle done, and then have another person finish, and then you're like, wait, I was done first, and then he's like, you got to signal me. Sorry. It's like,
I vaguely remember having like the same take on when that happened, and
yeah,
just being like, "That's horseshit." Like that you
yeah.
like we have cameras everywhere, and you gotta verbally like say something to Jeff. Like, I think that I still don't agree with that. But if it's in the rules and they go over it at the beginning of the season and say like, I don't know if did they hand him like a book of the rules or is it just
I
like
do think there is a handbook that like,
right. And
but
even
still.
then, even if they don't go over the first challenge, like you have to signal me, it's on you to read the handbook. Like to be, they
Yeah,
gave you the rules.
it's the Apple terms and conditions.
Yeah, exactly. You got to read it.
It's
Uh,
like you ever see the human Sentai Pad episode of South Park? It's like,
yeah.
damn it, why won't it read?
But I just think that, I mean, that it's fair game if they go over it. I just think it's a dumb rule, but like, you know, the rule can be dumb, but the ruling can be correct. Sort of
Yeah.
thing. But
Oh, I do agree with that. Like by the letter of the law, the right thing happened. It's
right.
just like having to tell someone like, oh, you like something's not right. Like at least if it's mid challenge, he
Mhm.
usually is just like something is not right, and then you have
Yeah.
to figure it out. And then you're like, oh, what the fuck? I can't believe I did this. But it's like you're more mad at yourself. The
Hmm.
fact that it happened and you have zero chance to correct it because Camilla finishes at the same time,
Yeah.
then it just makes you mad at Jeff at that point, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
that's
the
the same thing with
rules.
the puzzle. Like, gotta do the puzzle right. I don't know what to tell you, but
Hmm.
you're just like mad at the situation.
Joe should have been eliminated when he tried "got fun betrayal" as his word.
Yeah, what? And he spelled betrayal wrong. It didn't spell
Yeah,
betrayal correctly.
it was like instead of betrayal, it was beach rail
Yeah.
or like rail like RALE or
How could you like possibly? I forgot that happened, and I watched it an hour ago. Uh, how could you possibly like send all the letters out and be like, "This is it. It's gotta be God fun betrayal."
yeah.
Have they ever done like a question like that?
Yeah.
It's like God milk.
That would have been funny because they had the two eyeballs. If he
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, it's three words," and he put the eyeballs in between
Yeah.
as like spaces, then you would have been like, "Shit." I mean,
I mean, it's all there.
yeah, it's like, "Oh, you found something that perfectly fits,"
Yeah,
but it's
I
actually
mean,
not the answer we were looking for.
here's a good question. I mean, at what point? Say they probably check this before they create the puzzle. But like,
Hmm.
what if you make the puzzle like a different word that also makes sense? Like, how could you possibly be punished for that? Be like, that's not the
Yeah,
word we were looking for. We're actually looking for a different word, even though that also makes sense in this context.
yeah.
His did not, but I'm just saying, like, hypothetically, like, do you think that's something they back check for? Like, you could scramble this a different way.
They gotta be. That's something that like the challenge would fuck up. Like MTV, the challenge would
Yeah.
accidentally put two words in there, and then somebody would get the non-word, and they're like, "Oh fuck, you're right." Like that's something that their production would do.
Like
Um,
either like in the moment, like either one could work. There's two different ways to do it.
yeah. Um,
I don't think
I,
Survivor would fuck that up, to be honest. But
I did like the little wheelbarrow on
me
this
too. Yeah.
challenge.
Hmm.
It's something unique. Finally,
I know. I liked it too. It's a neat little contraption.
yeah.
What was with the faces? Is it like that's such a weird like thing?
To
To,
stack, yeah,
yeah, like you just be like cylinders or something. Like what is it? Why make it a face?
yeah. And especially, it looks like something that should shatter if it hits the ground. And it's
Yeah,
just like,
I thought
it's
that too.
very clearly made out of like aluminum, and they just like bonk bonk like when
Yeah.
they fall and hit each other. It's like clank clank. Yeah. Um. All other funny stuff from the challenge. I don't know how Kyle, you could see on the back of his that he had like two letters flipped, but when they
Mhm.
showed the front, it looked like he had it right, and I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, are there the same letters on both sides of the?
Oh, you know what? There's double digit or there's back to back T's.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, what if he had his T's backwards?
What do you mean?
Like on one side, because it was unforgettable was the word, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you get to the double T's, since they're not the direct center, like it's not symmetrical is what I'm saying. So
Mm-hmm.
like if the T's are the whatever number, they're like the 10th and 11th, not the 10th and 11th. They're like the
7th
8th
and
and
8th,
ninth.
or yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
they're like the 8th and ninth. This is one of those things that we were talking about the other day where it does not matter what letters or what
Yeah,
numbers I say,
yeah.
but I have to in my own head I have to say an accurate thing. Yeah, if they're like the 8th and ninth letters, that correlates to like the 4th and 5th letters being on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So like him swapping the T's could swap like the 4th and 5th letter on the other side and make the back wrong.
Oh, because it's
And
mirrored.
I
Yeah,
think that might have been what was happening to him.
that's fucked.
That's really fucked. That's like the upside down U.
That is, yeah, yeah, it is.
I remember that made my dad really mad because he always wants a person to win that I don't want to win. He really wanted Ben Driebergen to win, and
Of course he can.
and he was really mad that about the upside down U thing. He's like, it's bullshit. He put the right piece in the right spot, and then
Because this is obviously a union. Hasn't anyone taken
yeah,
statistics or whatever that is?
and I was like, as right as you are about it being the right piece, like just fucking put it right side up. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
And then I think the very next season they did the like spell immunity thing, and he was like, "Look, that eye is upside down," and I was like, "Oh fuck, that eye is upside down," and they didn't say anything about it, and I was like, "That's bullshit." You could tell based on the font that it's actually supposed to be wider at the top, and then it gets smaller at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, somebody had one upside down, probably Dominic or Wendell in the next season, and he was like, "That's upside down," and I've noticed it now, like every time that they do that challenge, there's always somebody that has it upside down.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily the winner, maybe, but
That's fair. That's fair. I'm a by the letter of the law guy.
yeah.
If there's anything about me, it's that Say's idol should have been played for her grandma. By the letter of the law.
Well, one thing about a guy like me.
I want the rule book out. I'm all for it. You gotta be. See, they're talking about lawyers. They should be looking at engineers reading legalese.
Yeah. The other funny thing too, I thought from this challenge was Mitch just completely ignoring the back. His back was just a scrambled alphabet soup the entire time.
Well, that's what's the strategy there? Do you work both sides of it? I mean, you gotta hold it, right? So like, you can't really work both sides of it.
Yeah, I think you just gotta spell it on the table and then just look at the back and be like, just sanity check, because
Yeah.
there's obviously letters that repeat, and for every repeating letter there's another permutation of a way that you could mess it up.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think you just gotta look at it initially. Like, I don't know if other people were just getting lucky that they just so happened to be putting it in
That's
the right
how,
spot.
I always imagine, like, a lot of the puzzles, like, I would be like laying it out on the floor before I'm like trying to fit it all
Yeah.
together. I don't know if they do that or not. We don't
I
really get a
don't
lot
know
of
if they're
shots of it.
allowed to build it on the ground. I think that might be a rule.
Oh, really? See, this is why we need the rule book. The rule book needs published.
Yeah.
There can't be like proprietary information in there that they only want contestants to know, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
the rules
Well,
of the game that we're watching.
my thought with this challenge specifically has always been that you should build it so like it's you build it like side to side like that, right? My thing has always been you should stand right in the middle. That way you're closer to the table, and then you just like build it like against your chest, and then every time you put a new one, you hold one piece, you grab the new one, you back up a little bit, you place it, and then you're like, because you don't need to push it or like squeeze it. You just have to hold it. It's like an arch. So you just have to hold it perpendicular to that face, and then you're fine.
Yeah.
But there's
Well,
always
I think it might get tricky, like once you come down the other side of
yeah,
the
you do run into an issue at some point.
I think that is the way to do it, to get to like the keystone, if you want to call it that, like the top of it. But after that, I think it is like more of just like a feel thing. Like you got to put one in and like see like where it needs braced, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess the part that would actually be applicable for is not really a part that people struggle with. So maybe it's a pointless thing that I'm
I don't
saying.
know, because I
But
think if you push perpendicular to that face when you're coming down, I think that backside will kick out.
you don't. I'm not saying push though. You just gotta hold it pretty much.
Gotcha. I don't
Yeah,
know. We need a we need a lab. We need
yeah,
a lab experiment.
we do. We got to get that disavowed Survivor player to build a puzzle of this.
Yeah, disavow.
Um. So yeah. From this, so Camilla wins a challenge. Um. She got fun betrayal. Actually, she didn't get fun betrayal. That didn't happen this episode.
Right.
But, she's gonna end up taking Mitch and Eva, and I thought it was very funny during the reward. Eva's like, which she turns out to be right, so I can't even dunk on her that hard. But I thought it was very funny that she's like, it's nice to know that everyone is just voting for Mary. Like she is playing the game on rookie mode.
Oh
There
yeah.
is she does. She's not even playing the game. I don't
Well,
think.
yeah, because she's like, I'm just gonna trust the people around me, which is like survive day one, something you don't do in Survivor. But then she
Right.
just gets put into the season where everyone wants to play that way, and then she also has all of the advantages, and then
Yeah.
everything she wants to have happen just happens. Even though she has no bearing on it happening, and it works out in her favor. And that's what I see a lot of people mad about her online, just because they say that Survivor has been giving her advantages, which I don't know. I kind of do agree with the one where they gave her an advantage for winning immunity. That's kind of
Yeah.
horseshit, but
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
rest of
I
them.
mean, she really is the. I'm not calling her an idiot. It's just
Hmm.
the name of the archetype, but she really is the idiot savant, which is
Yeah,
what you just described. Of
right.
like, they just la 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 la. They skip down the road and like there's fire and explosions behind them, but they get to the destination. Everything's okay. So
Yeah.
it must have been okay all
Like, I
along.
played a great game.
I'm doing the right thing all this time. This is good.
Yeah.
Um, and I do think so. Mary's reaction to not getting picked for the reward, she's pretty miffed by this.
Hmm.
I personally thought Eva was like a good red herring here because she's like, I don't want to pick Kyle, I don't want to pick Mary. Like she doesn't want to pick the people that she's trying to cause this insurrection with. And it makes sense. She's like, I don't want to fuel Joe, and Eva, this'll throw him off the scent of any plan. I thought it was good. Mary has a really weird episode socially, which we kind of buried the lead on this. She has the thing at the beginning with the coconut where she's pretty much like, no one will take me on a reward, so I'm just going to eat a shit ton of coconut. And which I was like, is this actually a reason why people aren't going to vote with her? And it kind of seems like it might have been.
Yeah, it does. Well, she's
It's
talking
also a
to.
self-fulfilling prophecy to
It
not get
is.
picked on the reward because she said, I'm going to pick someone who hasn't eaten, and it's Mitch because he's not scarfing coconut.
Yeah, right. Like, she's. Her and Eva have a conversation about this, about her with these coconuts. And Eva says something like, did you just like, was that our last coconut? She's like, yeah, like I'm gonna go home anyway. Wait, something to the effect of like I'm gonna go home anyway, so I might as well like eat these, or like I don't get picked on any rewards, and so I haven't eaten. And Eva's just like, fair enough. Like you see, like she's off camera, and Mary's saying this, and there's just the subtitles in the back. She goes, fair enough. Like cracked me up.
Yeah, and so I do want to tread lightly with what I'm saying here, but I think I kind of think Mary might have like given up by the end of the episode here, and like she kind of starts attacking the people that she needs votes from at tribal counts. Like she's basically saying that she's getting brushed off by them, and like I get wanting to keep it real. Like I feel like she was doing that for the internet fans who are like, oh, this season is a pagonging, and like at least somebody's willing to have the balls to call out what's going on, and like I get that and wanting to cater to that group of people, but like until your torch is snuffed, you're not out, and you need to keep playing. And I feel like I don't think that was the reason why she got voted out, but I just felt like it was kind of like a defeatist mindset
Mm-hmm.
and it feels like there was a little bit of an undertone of that from her the entire episode, where she was saying like she didn't get picked on the reward, and it happened one time and she got off the bottom once, and you'd think it's easier the second time, but it's not. And like I feel like she's right that she's on the bottom and it does suck, but there's things happening. There was a lot of opportunity to get Joe out, and like I said, I don't think it's her fault. I think it's Kyle and Shaheen's faults for why Joe doesn't get voted out. But like
And
for
yeah,
her,
I mean,
it just felt like this whole episode she was ready to just shrug and be like, "Yeah, no one was gonna help me, so I'm gone."
yeah, I don't know how much of it was the edit, both being negative for Mary because she goes home and positive for Kyle and Shaheen because they're both potential winners. But like, Mary kind of goes to around to everyone and makes the typical like I'm on the bottom pitch, use me as a number, like we've heard the pitch a million times. And then like after she does that, there's no more strategy from her like seen at all. Like everything is through Kyle's eyes and Shaheen's eyes and Camilla's
Mm-hmm.
eyes. Like you would think like if she is proposing this move that we would get more from her after that. And that's why I'm agreeing with you when you say like it did feel like she just gave up and like made that pitch because everybody makes that pitch for keeping me. I'll work with you. I'm a number, yada yada yada. And she made that pitch and didn't realize or like didn't care enough to like realize that it was people were taking it seriously. Maybe
Well, yeah, because
like
that's
everyone's like that's a good idea, and Mary's like yeah, like that was just like a shot in the dark. Like you don't have to do it, but like
we'll share the user shot in the dark.
yeah, right.
Um, well, yeah, that's the thing that like Kyle is independently thinking of the move that Mary suggests, and Kyle pretty much he kind of stonewalls her, and he says in confessional, "I'm actually thinking of doing exactly what she just said. I just don't trust her enough to tell her right now."
Mm-hmm.
And she also goes to Shaheen, and Shaheen's sentiment, I think he's less likely to do it, but his sentiment is also like, hey, if this gets out, it's fucked. Like, if Joe catches wind of this, I'm not doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
It seemed like you did kind of catch wind of it though.
right, and it's Mary's own fault, which is,
Mm-hmm.
that was going to be my punctuation on all
Yeah,
this.
sorry.
No, you're good. And, yeah, so I think that, like, Shaheen, he's also considering, but he's like, we can't solidify this until the last minute. And I get that it's her life in limbo at that point, but she's got to know that this is her only chance. If she really thinks that it's so bleak, then you got to know that this is your last best chance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, like Shaheen says, don't alert Joe to it, pretty much. And since it's her last best chance, she should stay on it, even though Kyle is wishy-washy about it. And I think her telling Joe the tribal council thing that I said, I don't think that's why she went home. I think probably the biggest reason why she goes home is just point blank telling Joe.
Yeah.
Because it put him on alert in a way that he wasn't on alert before, and especially with it seemed like Shaheen was pretty off put by her doing that, where he's pretty much telling Eva, like, yeah, like Joe's getting a touch of heat tonight. And I thought Eva was going to play the idol on him, because she said earlier in the episode she was essentially like, yeah, I'm just going to hold on to this until it expires because I don't need it. And so I thought it was going to be a good time to use it. But yeah,
like,
I just think it's there was a plan that could work if it stayed completely secret. And Mary was like, fuck it, I'm basically going to tell you guys how you all suck by me sucking.
yeah.
It's
And,
like her.
like Joe's read on Mary telling him that she's gonna vote for him was wrong. Like he was just straight up wrong about it. He thought she had an idol, and she
Yeah.
didn't. But like, I mean, it still like had the same effect. It had the same effect on Joe that like Mary wanted it to have, I guess. But like, that was the wrong thing to do. Like,
Well, yeah, I don't know why she wanted that.
right? Yeah. Like that's the effect. Like that is the effect. If you're telling someone I'm voting for you, that's the effect you want it to have. But it doesn't make sense for Mary to do that in that situation.
Yeah. I think it would make more sense if, because Kyle pretty much said, like, this is a good move. I'm just struggling with the morality of it. But he doesn't say no. He pretty much tells her, like, yeah, you're right. Like, let me just think on it some more. Shaheen is also of the camp of, like, yeah, this is a good move. We can't lock it in right now because it's just too early. We can't be, letting it float around. So, yeah, I think that she just got impatient probably, because if those guys are just saying no directly to your face, that's when you blow it up.
Right.
Because it's like I gotta break up the status quo. I gotta create a new world order here. But when your only shot is like a covert shot on Joe, you gotta be covert. And I think that was like the one thing that Mary kind of struggled with.
Going into Tribal, not knowing what we know now, me and you both thinking that Joe was probably going. I thought Shaheen's reaction was really weird to when Mary was kind of like taking a shot at him, when he's like all off put by it. I was like, when Mary was saying that, I was like, this is a great smokescreen, because if they're going to get Joe out, this is exactly what Joe wants to hear. And then Shaheen's like that's not how it is at all. And I was like, why is he reacting like that? Like, he should be voting for Joe, and this should make sense that she's saying that, because they want him to feel comfortable, and not to him and Eva to feel comfortable, and not to have to play the idol. It's like what I was thinking. I was like, this is a good answer. And then Shaheen was like, visibly like, something stinks right now. I was like, that's weird. Like, I should have known then that something was up because of his reaction like that. Like, I don't think he would have reacted like that if he was voting Joe, but I don't know. None of it made sense to me. It didn't make sense why they didn't pull the trigger. Mary's whole episode didn't make sense. And for being someone who's like, the entire game has been a shifter and a mover, like, it was very strange the way the whole episode was just very strange. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think that Shaheen, just because we were just talking about him, I wanted to revisit, I briefly mentioned this earlier, but when him and Joe are talking, he was kind of off put by Joe's paranoia, and Shaheen, he had the wrong read, but then the way that he felt about it, his emotions actually guided him to the correct place, because he's mad at Joe for being paranoid, which Joe is actually right to be paranoid, because there is a plot to get him out.
Even though he's thinking about it from the wrong way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, Joe is like, yeah, it's my ass pretty much. Like, if we all vote for Mary and Mary votes for me and she has an idol, like, they both have the bad read. He thinks she has an idol and she doesn't. Shaheen thinks that he's just paranoid and he's not. There is a plot, which Shaheen knows, which is another reason why it's weird that he says this in confessional. I could see him saying it to Joe's face, but in confessional he seems pretty miffed as well.
Well, this is the same thing that everyone calling David paranoid and being upset with David for being paranoid, when there was, in fact, a plot against David. Like, he wasn't paranoid. He was just right.
Exactly.
Which, not defending the guy, but, like, he was right. I mean,
right.
Yeah. For what it's worth.
Yeah, so Joe is like, I might need to toss a vote on somebody, which him saying it in front of Shaheen and Mitch was hilarious, because I do think Mitch is the guy that you toss the vote on. Absolutely.
Because I was like, they even said it. They were like, Mitch was like, are you going to vote for me or Shaheen? And he was kind of like, I don't know what we're going to do. But, like, the answer was basically, yeah. Like,
yeah, he was like, are you going to vote for me? He's like, well, we got to do something, right?
Just put two and two together. I mean, like, it's all I can do. My hands are tied, really.
Yeah, and Shaheen takes it as a sign that Joe is willing to turn on the group, which I thought the other part that he was wrong about was, I think it's a bit of a stretch, because there is an alliance within an alliance, and I think that if Joe genuinely wants to stick with the alliance and vote out Mary, and he's just scared about an idol, you would think that all he would do is vote for Mitch or Camilla. But Shaheen gets so cranked up about this. Well, Joe also says, he he's like, yeah, like I'm getting votes. Like, what would be so wrong with writing down, say, your name? And Shaheen's like, what did you say?
Yeah.
Which that is a bizarre thing to say if you're Joe. Like I thought Joe, his entire sentiment was correct of like, hey, I got a Devin Pinto here. If I'm getting one vote, I got to toss a vote on somebody here.
This is exactly, not to derail this point, this is exactly where I would go wrong in Survivor, is like, I'd be like explaining something hypothetically, and then someone would be like, well, we're not going to do that. I'm like, I'm not saying we're going to do that. I'm just saying hypothetically this is how this would play out. They're like, we're thinking of doing that now. Like, they wouldn't say it to me. We wouldn't argue back and forth, but like they would go into confessional and be like, he's thinking of doing that. I'm like, I'm not thinking of doing that. I'm just explaining hypothetically. Like, that's where I would get into so much trouble with like what Joe was saying there. He was like, hypothetically, like we'd put a vote on you, and then Shane's like, what the fuck? And then Joe was like, I'm not saying I'm gonna do that. I'm just saying hypothetically.
Yeah,
that's what would happen.
Shaheen he's getting a little bit of like teeny Sam jealousy here, where he was like, I got votes twice, and Mr. having immunity over here. He's like, after his whole thing about I just won immunity one time, he's like, Joe's had immunity 3 times. He's mad about somebody writing his name once. Yeah. I've gotten it twice.
He had a good little rant there for sure.
Yeah, Shaheen he had a good episode. I really liked in like during the why discussion at Tribal Council, which was like, I kind of hated that it was just this emotional segment smack dab in like the climax where I'm like, I really care about who's getting voted out. It's not a run of the mill vote. Like, it could be a big flip, which I guess
we did that already. That entire like,
yeah,
everybody's like story. That was like 3 episodes ago on the journey. Like, we did that.
Yeah, but I think that he's so good at putting thoughts into words, which it's like that's how humans work, and so it sounds like a dumb thing to say, but like I just think he's so good at like breaking down a discussion and finding like the point, and then hammering home the point. I just feel like he's a really good narrator in that way.
He's someone who I would like to watch play again, but he would never get cast in a season again, I don't think.
Well, that's an interesting thing, is that there's rumors that there's a male from Survivor 48 that is being considered for 50. That's a new development. And I feel like if Joe doesn't win the season, I've heard that it's no winners. They pretty much have like, I think they have like 15 non-winners right now, and there's no winners, and so people are thinking that it's no winners. If Joe wins and it's no winners, I guess Kyle is the guy. I kind of feel like Shaheen could be the guy.
Shaheen is more interesting than Kyle. Kyle's not that interesting to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think he would be, I don't know. This vote made me change my mind a little bit, but I thought up until this vote he would be a good winner. And
yeah.
I don't know. Shaheen is much more interesting than Kyle is, just in every facet of the game, I think. But he just seems like one of those players that, like, he goes deep, they feel like his story's told, and he just never gets invited to come back or doesn't want to come back or whatever. But, like, I want to see him again. I like seeing him on TV. I feel like he has more to offer strategically than what he has done this season. Maybe they feel the same way. I don't know.
Yeah. Other stuff from this episode, we did have a random journey. They said, hey, it's the final 7. Let's give somebody a chance to lose their votes so that we could get to an even number of votes.
You know that classic final 7 journey that we've been doing for 20 years?
Right. So Eva draws the rock. It's a puzzle stacking challenge.
Surprise. Another.
Yeah. They fucking glued it to her hand probably before it.
Slipped it in her pocket. A little sleight of hand action.
So if you build the cards up, it's essentially the card stacking challenge, but there's a twist where you have to spin the Lazy Susan with your foot. And so you get 4 levels, you keep your vote. 8 levels, you get an advantage. It is the knowledge without power. I do think, slight point in Eva's favor, she realized that she didn't need this because she has all the advantages. So
could she even use all of her advantages if she gets this?
I don't think there's a rule against playing like knowledge without power and also like the
safety without power.
Yeah, you obviously got to play the one before you leave. You got to play the knowledge without power before you leave Tribal Council.
Yeah,
I do think if she was gonna play the idol on Joe, I think knowledge without power is useful because then there'll be a new idol.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
But I
That's
don't know.
fair. I don't know. It's a good decision for her to
Yeah.
stop at four. She puts two little pieces up of the fifth one
And
and
then
she's
she
like,
looks at it, she's
nah.
like, never mind. She got to the point where she'd have to spin it again. She's like,
Yeah.
this probably doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Which props to her for
Yeah.
doing that, you know?
But I just, yeah, my big takeaway here was that it's big old nothing burger journey segment once again.
Like,
Jeff
how can we
is
fill these 90 minutes that we boxed ourselves into?
right that
Journeys every week.
we don't need to be doing. It's so upsetting that all I wanted when there were 60-minute episodes was 90-minute episodes, so that we could see. It felt like there was things that were left out, and now it feels like 75% of the added time is filler. Like they needed hour and 7-minute episodes,
Right.
not 30.
We're still missing the same things we were missing from the 60-minute episodes, except now we get twice the amount of challenge time.
Right. Yeah, like the challenge starts with 45 minutes left, and it's pretty much that, and then 5 to 7 minutes of valuable scrambling, and then we've been having like 20-minute tribal councils.
Camera's unfocusing, sorry.
Or not 20-minute tribal councils. They go to the last commercial with like 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
And there's like a 6-minute commercial, and then there's like a 10-minute tribal where they don't talk about anything, and then there's like another 4-minute commercial, and then the scene for next time.
Right. Yeah, I think it is just so much filler. They just want to sell the extra ads so they could. What happened to the Applebee's this season?
Dude, I'm pissed.
Yeah, I'm pissed. That is Alyssa's all-time favorite Survivor moment. She, fucking Liz. I'm pissed. Somebody said I'm pissed today, and we both immediately after they said it on the TV both went, I'm pissed.
The hardest, not the hardest, but I use too much hyperbole, I've realized recently, but one of the funniest things I've ever seen on the show is when she goes through that whole thing, and then Q says, but Liz, you voted for me last night. She just stares at him. I think I said when we were talking about the episode at that time, I was like, I think if she had a gun, she would shoot him right now.
For a mushroom could. Swiss burger? They're not.
Yeah.
That's not even like the best burger at Applebee's.
It's kind of the closest thing to, which I don't know if you'd get this reference. I send this to Alyssa every time that I see it. Is Rockstar from Big Brother when Brett frames her for like a hinky vote. And everybody pretty much believes him. Like half the house knows he's lying, but they want him to succeed, so they help him. That's his alliance. And then the rest of the house is like, oh fuck, I think Brett's got a point, just because they're stupid. And so it's like it's successful, and she's like spiraling because it's working, and he's she knows he's lying. The only two people that know for a fact that he's lying are the two of them, and his acting is holding up, and she just can't overcome it. And she's like, I can't believe on my daughter's birthday you would do this.
On the day of my daughter's wedding.
You know that I go to Applebee's with my daughter on Wednesdays, you bastard.
I cannot wait for Q on 50.
Me neither.
He is someone I definitely needed more of, and that is a great, like, he was like in my top 5 probably of people I wanted to see on 50.
Yeah. I think if you gave me a blank piece of paper and you said, because I would try to space out like people we've seen a bunch of times, I'd probably try to leave off and stuff. And I'd probably skew it more towards newer people just because we have such a great pool of people to pull from. Since, I mean, besides Game Changers cast, we haven't had somebody return. Well, I guess fucking Edge of Extinction, whatever. But like, we really haven't had returnees since 31, and so there's a big group. But yeah, I had another point there, and I lost it. So
we're talking about Q. Where would you
put
Q
I think if you gave me a blank piece of paper and you were like 20 people, Q would be on it for me.
Yeah,
100%.
I can't wait for the first you can cancel Christmas on 50.
Yeah. Because Survivor's back. That should be in the like.
It should be.
That should be in the promo that they show during NFL Sundays.
It should be. He could go first. Like, he could be first boo to 50, and I want to cancel Christmas in that one episode. I need
Absolutely.
And
Um,
he'll capitalize on it too. He knows everybody loves it. He's such like a marketer of himself that like
mhm,
he's ripping cancel Christmases as soon as they get filming.
yeah. All right. So if we want to just run down the rankings quick, we had Kyle at 1, Eva's 2. I think that's just a safety thing because
Mm,
I think we both said before the podcast, like she's pretty much drawing dead.
yeah,
I think her and Mitch lose to any of the other 4.
right.
And like if Eva's there with 2 of them and Mitch, I don't think they like. There's no way that like 2 people split and Eva wins. It's not happening. I don't think. Camilla is 3. Shauheen and Joe tied for 4th. I regrettably put Joe lower because I still think there's opportunity to get him out, but the way I see it playing out, I don't think he goes. But
Mm,
I'll be ready to slap Joe back at number 1, head into the finale next week.
mm,
And then Mitch is last, which the one thing I had for Mitch was he gets a confessional in the first like 5 minutes where he says that it's obvious that Joe is running away with the season.
mm.
And I said, I guess it wasn't obvious enough last week. But
Or this week.
yeah, good job, Mitch. You're voting for people who can't win the game to go home.
I was talking Mitch.
Yeah, that was talking Mitch. So the
I think we had a similar segment. Chung chung.
yes,
I think we had a similar segment about Romeo.
yeah.
Say something about Romeo this week.
Oh my God, Romeo. I feel like he was maybe underrated, but he was doing the same thing.
I think that's the space. It just gave you enough time. Anybody's underrated with enough time.
That's true. But yeah, it is the Dunchains, so it's Mary was my player. It's mine to give. So just a little recap here. My Dunchains, I have had Charity, Say, and David, who are gone, and then I also have Mitch Dunchained already. You have Say, Cedric, Chrissy, David, and now Mary.
Mm-hmm.
All gone. Still got Mitch. I think you might have somebody else that I forgot to list. And Eva. Eva, that's right, from last week.
Eva. It's my Wally impression.
All right. So, it's mine to give, and I think this is a straightforward one.
Mm-hmm.
I think the waters are muddied. I still think that there's a chance for Kyle, Camilla, Shauheen, and Joe all to win, although I think it is skewing towards, I'd say about Joe 50%, Kyle, Camilla each probably about 20%, and Shauheen picking up the scraps there. But I think, like I just said, Eva is drawing dead. I will be done chaining Eva.
Mm-hmm.
And unless Kyle or Camilla go home next week, I'll have the last Unchained to give. And I believe, based on who goes home next time, I will have some clarity about who the winner is. Like, I think that maybe one of those sides will lose a person, and then it'll become clear that either, hey, the second person on the one side is cooked, or the person that's by themselves is cooked, and so.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment. If I have to give a Dunchain next week, because Kyle or Camilla goes, I would probably put it on Shauheen.
Yeah.
I just don't think like he would have the least amount of winner's equity probably, especially if he's like having to defend himself for getting framed. So it doesn't really seem like winner behavior to me.
No, it doesn't. Not at all. All right, but yeah, you guys can listen Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. However you're listening right now, you can try one of the other ones, and also follow us on TikTok. the.reality.gurus. I've been posting, like a weekly one. Got some good run on. I was talking about Survivor 50 cast on this past one. A lot of people agree with me. Everybody's done with Ozzy, and we're done with Colby. There's some people that are done with Suri, but I'm not done with Suri.
Just what we need, more affirmation that we're right.
That's right, yeah. But it was nice to see. It's like the first one where every comment that rolls through is like good, and I was like, okay, we got one through. It's nice to see one go through the hoop every once in a while.
Yep.
But yeah, I am curious who that next Survivor 50 or Survivor 48 person is that's on 50. I do think it's probably. I think if Joe loses, it is Joe.
Yes.
And if Kyle or Shauheen loses, and if Joe wins, it's one of Kyle or Shaheen, but I'd say probably Kyle.
That's what makes me think Joe doesn't win, is because it makes the most sense for that to be Joe.
Yeah, and I don't know why that would get decided now, because they know all through their casting process who wins this season.
Right. I don't know.
Speaking of, I was when I was looking at some of those lists, I haven't seen Dominic Abate's name one time. I thought he was a slam dunk to return at one point. That's kind of upsetting.
Yeah, I don't know. That's because you see he cut Colby, and there's a big old slot for. It was
For
either Colby or
player.
Dominic for some reason.
Yeah.
No, it couldn't be anybody. He couldn't go anywhere else.
There's also people that think that the David versus Goliath man, that everyone is just assuming that it's going to be Christian. It's actually Davey. There's a conspiracy theory there, which I do think Davey would be a fun player. I think Christian is a much more worthy character of Survivor 50.
Like one of the whales that they need to get for 50.
Yeah.
For sure.
I feel that my four that I could not live without on 50 are Christian, Angelina, Q, and Carolyn, which it sounds like Carolyn I'm going to have to live without, but
yeah. I'm shocked that they didn't pick Carolyn, especially since she did Traitors and everyone loved her on Traitors.
Like, I think that's why they didn't pick her. I think they're mad that she did Traitors. Yeah, I seriously think that's why.
Get over yourself, CBS. Are you kidding me? Like,
well, Jeff had that whole. It was an interview somewhere that he gave where he was.
You told me they don't like Boston Rob anymore.
Well, no. So his thing is that he doesn't like. He was acting like if you're on Survivor, and then you get popular on Survivor and you go somewhere else, that like we made you, and like don't think that you're a star, like you're a Survivor star. And I think that Rob, because like when he first was on Survivor, like he went on The Amazing Race, and he had a construction show, I don't know if he still does or not, where he was building houses and shit. Like Rob became and Jeff just loved him, and I bet had something to do with some of that stuff in the background anyway. But he was like he was a guy that like it already happened. I think now that like, especially with like the challenge, like I wouldn't be surprised if they don't love like Tyson or Chris Underwood anymore, like because they went on the challenge. And like Jay was always a slam dunk returnee when he was talked about. Now, ever since he's become like a staple on the challenge, I haven't heard his name one time for Survivor ever again.
What a horrible take by Jeff.
Yeah, it's good publicity for your show if someone can go on another show and also be like Carolyn. To me was, I think her, Gabby, and Sandoval like made Traitors for me in terms of like entertainment value. And I feel like if like what, and Rob was great when he was on the show too. And I feel like if you can have people from your show go to another show, be 4 of the 20 or however many people there are, and you have like 2 of your people being the 5 most entertaining, like it's good on your show, and it's going to make people want to watch Survivor.
Right. I think they view it the other way, where it's like they're upset that they're more famous on the Traitors than they were on Survivor, that more people are talking about it now, and that which is the wrong way to look at it, because they're all old and dumb and don't understand how the world works anymore. Fucking give me a contract, CBS, after I just said that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I have shared this with you, but my point in that video was pretty much that they should have did Second Chance 2 for season 48, because Survivor loves to like bring somebody back for their second time and then quick turnaround on the third time. Like they want to maximize people like that. And so I think they would have done well to have a Second Chance 2 where it was only one-time players who debuted after the last Second Chance. And then for 50, you could bring like a couple of the standouts from that season, couple legends, couple people that got left off of that season, and like that's how you build 50. And I just feel like people would feel like the pot the pool is more satisfied if it's like, hey, you have this really big group, the fans can vote on it, we get all the fan favorites in there, okay, we'll put a couple more of those on 50, here's the production favorites from that fan vote that didn't make it, and then here's your fucking Ozzy and your Colby and whatever. So
yeah.
All right, well, I think that's going to do it. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you all next time.